I get an invitation from India-China Institute of the New School. New School is a very well-known educational institution located at New York, United States of America. And this institute, India-China Institute, which studies India, which studies China. So they were discussing with me for last 6-7 months about the possibility of my participation in their 20th anniversary. Normally what happens in government offices and other offices that the senior most officer goes by the noting of junior sanctioning junior officers, and if there is no issue that has been flagged by his office, understanding is that he or she would approve. But it was lying there for 30 days, more than 30 days. And then I called him and he was gracious enough to take my call, and we talked at length. And he said that the university will have to send my application to the education ministry. And I asked him that, why do you want to send it to the education ministry? Because is there any rule in university? In our rule book, in our statute book, there is no such rule. And he agreed that there was no such rule. And then I asked that if there was no rule, there must be some precedent, tradition. Without rule that you keep sending. That has been your tradition. So is there any precedent? And he again told me very clearly that this was going to be the first such case in which I was asked to submit the draft of my speech. So it was interesting. After rejection, they were asking me to submit. Yes, I do write. And I have been critical of many things that the university administration has done. But that should not be a reason to put this as a condition. So I won't like to speculate the demand, and I said that because it affects the institutional autonomy of Delhi University, my university, and I am very concerned with that. I want my university to have its autonomy. And second, it concerns academic freedom, the issue of academic freedom, which is my freedom of a faculty member, which again I won't like to compromise.
Is this not tantamount to a total censorship on the university campuses? And I'm just worried what happens to the teachers, what happens to the students on the campuses, and how difficult is it really for people like you to survive on university campuses now, where you have an environment like this, which believes in censorship, which doesn't believe in the freedom of thought. Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Delhi University professor Apoorvanand, who was to participate in an academic event at the New School in New York, was asked by the Delhi University administration to submit the text of his proposed talk before giving him clearance to attend the event. And after he refused, the university denied him permission to travel. Now, as everybody knows, that Professor Apoorvanand is a professor in the Hindi department. He applied for leave to participate in the 20th anniversary celebrations of the India-China Institute at the New School, scheduled from April 23rd to May 1st. Now, he said that despite submitting his application more than 35 days in advance, he received a formal rejection from the Delhi University on April 2nd, saying that it was unable to grant permission. And the university also said that it needed to seek advice from the Union Education Ministry to grant him leave. And this controversy comes at a time when we see that there is already a controversy between Donald Trump and universities like Harvard, Princeton, Brown. And actually, in a letter to the Vice Chancellor, Mr. Yogesh Singh, which is dated April 16th, Professor Apoorvanand wrote, and I quote, I fail to understand what made the university decide to forego the principle of institutional autonomy and invite intervention of an outside agency, in this case, the union government, in a matter of granting leave to a faculty member. So we thought of speaking to Professor Apoorvanand, who joins us this evening. Thank you so much, Professor Apoorvanand, for joining. And it's thank you, sir, so much for joining. It's really unfortunate to read what has happened. And I would want to understand the sequence of events, because I was also reading somewhere that you appeared for a podcast with Kunal Kamra. And after you appeared on that podcast, it was telecast. And after that comes this controversy of denying you permission. What has really happened? And what is the matter? What is the truth?
First of all, thank you very much, Neelu, for having me here. It's a pleasure to talk to you again. First, let me clarify that it has nothing to do with the airing of the video of the podcast with Kunal Kamra, because this process had been going on for last 30 days or more than that, and all this had happened long back. So it has nothing to do with Kunal Kamra, because in the first rejection from the university came to me on the night of 1st April, and the airing of Kunal Kamra podcast happens 2 weeks after that. So the decision of the university has nothing to do with Kunal Kamra show. That people must realize, because we very simplistically link two things which are unrelated. And the sequence is very simple. I get an invitation from India-China Institute of the New School. New School is a very well-known educational institution located at New York, United States of America. And this institute, India-China Institute, which studies India, which studies China, and which does many things, research, study, etc., is also well-known among the scholars of India and China. So many Indian scholars have been to this place before. So they were discussing with me for last 6-7 months about the possibility of my participation in their 20th anniversary event, and they wanted me to. And it's very interesting, and let me give you the full background, because initially they wanted me to be there for 1 month. So they wanted me to be, it was a kind of residency they were offering. But then the kind of honorarium that they wanted to give required that I had a different kind of visa. And for that visa, requirement was that I should submit, or I should provide them with an English proficiency certificate. Okay. And I told them that, well, it's very humiliating that when you are inviting a scholar, you're also asking him to submit an English proficiency certificate to them. And for that, you will conduct a test. So I refused to take that test, and I refused to submit this English proficiency certificate. So it caused slight, I would say, upheaval, because it changed the plans. They wanted to have me for 1 month, and I refused because I was not happy with the condition. And these people don't know. And then they said that, well, please come for at least 9 days and participate in the events and talks and seminars and informal conversations. And for that, they extended another invitation. And that for that, I applied for leave. And I waited for 35 days. Now we have to apply through a portal.
So you applied well in advance.
I applied well in advance, and I applied according to the advice given to me by my office and by the registrar office, that this is how I need to apply. Because now we apply through we apply online, and there's a portal called Samarth portal through which we apply. All government employees and all university employees, we are not government employees. It must be underlined. We are autonomous, we are university employees, but Samarth portal is the portal through which we apply. And I could see the status of my application because it was cleared from all benches, from the DR, deputy registrar level, and it was awaiting the approval of the registrar. And normally what happens in government offices and other offices that the senior most officer goes by the noting of junior sanctioning junior officers. And if there is no issue that has been flagged by his office, understanding is that he or she would approve. But it was lying there for 30 days, more than 30 days. And then I called him, and he was gracious enough to take my call. And we talked at length. And he said that the university will have to send my application to the education ministry. And I asked him that, why do you want to send it to the education ministry? Because is there any rule in university? In our rule book, in our statute book, there's no such rule. And he agreed that there was no such rule. And then I asked that if there was no rule, there must be some precedent, tradition, without rule that you keep sending. That has been your tradition. So is there any precedent? And he again told me very clearly that this was going to be the first such case in his tenure. So again, there was no precedent to justify it. And I told him very politely that I find these two conditions unacceptable because the first condition actually compromises with the institutional autonomy of Delhi University. Registrar is the competent authority. Registrar doesn't have to ask education ministry to take a decision. So why is university handing over its autonomy to the ministry? Why is university?
I interrupt you for a moment, Professor Apoorvanand. That you said that bringing in a third party like the education ministry, of course, is not justified. But why do you think that the university did this? It was, especially in your case, since you raised a lot of questions, you've been speaking against the dispensation, and we all do that. We are all in the same boat. But the point is that why bring in the education ministry? Yes, sir.
See, unless the university tells me specifically, I won't like to speculate. Yes, I do write. And I have been critical of many things that the university administration has done. But that should not be a reason to put this as a condition. So I won't like to speculate. This is for the university to explain. And
no, but this is something, Professor Apoorvanand, this is something that the government will never say on record. This is something which the government will never put it on record.
It will not. And that is something for all of us to understand. Not for me to explain. Not for me to explain that my critical writings are a reason for this. Because people will have to make their own conclusion. But this is what happened. And then and then I said that if you are asking me to submit the draft of my speech before taking a decision, it is in fact violation of academic freedom. Again, there is no rule and there is no precedent. And he agreed that there was no rule.
I'll just interrupt you here for a moment. You said that they wanted a draft of the speech which you were supposed to, your talk, they wanted a copy of that. Now, have they ever asked any other professor to submit their talk or their speech? There are several of them who keep going abroad. Have they ever asked any other professor?
That is exactly what I was telling you, that there is no rule and there is no precedent. So this was going to be, and he agreed. He agreed that this was first such case. So it was extraordinary, unprecedented, and it was very difficult me to comply with the demand. And I said that because it affects the institutional autonomy of Delhi University, my university, and I am very concerned with that. I want my university to have its autonomy. And second, it concerns academic freedom, the issue of academic freedom, which is my freedom. freedom of a faculty member, which again I won't like to compromise. So these are the two things, and therefore it is difficult for me to agree with uh, the conditions put by the university administration. So this was the sequence of events. And then on that evening, I got rejection slip. Interestingly, after getting my rejection slip, I wrote back that I have received rejection after our conversation, but no reason has been given for the rejection. So kindly let me know the reason. And I repeated my request for reason of the rejection. And on the third day, I get a letter delivered by hand in which I was asked to submit the draft of my speech. So it was interesting. After rejection, they were asking me to submit. Again, I wrote to the registrar that, well, this is what has happened, and I have asked you reason for rejection. Now I get this written communication from your office, and I have to reiterate that I will not be able to submit the draft of my speech. So it happened, and then I wrote to the vice chancellor because I got no response. That I, as a faculty member, as a senior faculty member who has spent more than 2 decades at Delhi University, I at least have earned a right to get an acknowledgement and response from the university administration, which I'm not getting, and it's slightly humiliating and demeaning for a faculty member who has given his life for the institution to be treated like this. This is what I wrote to the vice chancellor, apprising him what had happened. Again, I got no response. Then yesterday, I got a communication again from the administration asking me to submit the draft of my speech. So this is the sequence of event. And again, I wrote yesterday that as I have said before, I'm repeating that I'm not, I won't be able to submit the draft of my speech. So this. And there was some confusion. My colleagues told me that you have applied for duty leave. So this category might not apply. So I asked very specifically, I asked the registrar that whether the category was a problem. Because when you are checking my application, you can always point out that this category doesn't apply. Please apply in a different category. It was never pointed out to me. So again, I assume that was not a problem because I got no response regarding that. So this is what has happened. And my old colleagues who have retired from Delhi University, JNU, etc., they called me and they said that it was unprecedented, unheard of, because never before in the history of Indian higher education has a faculty member been asked to submit the draft of the talk or speech or presentation that he or she would make in a seminar or symposium or conversation. So this is extraordinary. That is what they said, and they were shocked.
No, it is. It is very shocking. Rather, what you're saying is it's unprecedented. Even we've not heard ever before. Now, what kind of conditions does it really set for the academia, for the free thought of free speech, and the way the ideas are being nursed on the university campuses? And fortunately or unfortunately, this episode of yours is coinciding with what exactly is happening in America, what Trump is trying to do with Harvard, Princeton, Brown, and so many other Ivy League universities. What does it really show, Professor Apoorvanand?
So what Donald Trump is trying to do with American universities is very clear. He has launched an ideological assault on American universities, and he wants to take away the autonomy that has been nursed and nurtured so jealously in the American university system. Although we have seen American universities going down in the Biden regime itself, doing things for which they should be ashamed of. Even Harvard did it, and other universities did it with their students and faculty. But we saw that Princeton University, Harvard University, and other universities have now stood up, and they have spoken up, and they have gone to court to defend their academic autonomy, because now Trump wants to control their curriculum, their whole educational design. It wants to tell them how to define a discipline, how to hire people, and how to run the university. And universities are refusing to do that. So that is very important. Now, what we have seen in India is different. In India, what has happened is that all the vice chancellors of Indian universities, mainly central universities and other universities, are in one way or other allied to the ideology of the Bharatiya Janata Party and RSS. So the government doesn't need to apply any pressure like Trump. It doesn't need to threaten them. Actually, what happens here is quite reverse, because the government issues a diktat or issues a circular, and the university leaders run to implement that. And they do it voluntarily without being asked. The ministry issues
but this also could be a reason, Professor Apoorvanand. This also could be a reason, since you said that other professors, they run to toe the line of the vice chancellor.
I'm not saying professors. I said directors, vice chancellors, because they are mostly, unlike the presidents of American universities, most of the vice chancellors and directors and heads of higher educational institutions in India are in one way or the other allied with the ideology of the ruling party. They voluntarily do it without any pressure, without any threat. So you won't see, if you look at the record of this government has not issued any threat to any university. Universities are doing it voluntarily.
Yeah,
that is the difference. Trump is threatening. Trump says that I will cut your funding, I won't give you funding, and I will deport your students, I will deport your teachers, and universities are fighting back. Here, universities are in a competition with each other to please the government, because the ideological leaning of the leaders of these higher educational institutions suits the regime. They belong to the same ideological frame, and it is an ideological drive that they are involved in.
But what is the status now that you already refused, that you will not give a copy of the speech you want to make or the talk, and so they've finally cancelled your visa, and you are not
going. Visa again. There's again confusion. University cannot cancel a visa. Visa is something which the host country gives. It's only for America to cancel my visa. Okay. So there is no question of visa getting cancelled. The status of leave is vague, because it's only yesterday that I have been asked by the university to again submit my talk, and I have again refused. So the status is vague. I don't know. But practically now, I would say that it's a no, because I have not heard from them.
But is it also true that, and obviously the government will never put it on record, but for the kind of writings you've already done, and you've been speaking on so many other issues which are seen to be critical, is it true that they've troubled you as far as your promotion in the university is also concerned, because I was reading somewhere that you were up for almost becoming the head of the Hindi department, but one of your juniors was made the head. Uh, is that the manner in which they're trying to trouble you, exploit you, just because you are critical?
Again, this is a conclusion that you and others should make, not for me to speculate. I have been doing what I keep doing. I write, and I may be wrong, but when I think that this is wrong, I call it wrong, and this is right, I call it right. I may be wrong in my assessment, but this is what I do. I've been doing honestly, and this is what teachers are expected to do. This is what writers are expected to do. If the regimes are taking decisions based on that, so people can see and people can establish link, and I leave it to the people. I leave it to the people to make their own conclusion, to understand what is happening. Not for me to say that since I have been doing this, it has been done to me. This is not for me to say. It's for others to conclude, for others to see what is happening in this country. It's a larger, as I said, and I want to emphasize that this is not a personal issue. This is not an issue of Apoorvanand. And this is not an injustice being done to Apoorvanand. This is an assault on academic freedom.
That's right.
This is an assault on the notion of institutional autonomy. And it should concern all teachers, academic community, and the community, society at large, because education concerns all of us, okay? The society at large. They should be concerned how the universities are being run, how the affairs in the university are being conducted, what kind of people are there who are taking decisions, and what are they doing to teachers. It should concern whole of the society. And this is what it was not a personal. I don't feel any sense of injustice. I see it as an violation of institutional norms, which should worry the academic community, which should worry the society. It affects all of us, not an individual. And this denial of to a faculty member to go and participate in an academic intellectual activity, to stop him or to try to stop him by taking recourse to these measures, is again something all of us need to be concerned with, the society at large. It's a question not only of freedom of expression, but academic freedom, which is much more specific. Because when you deny academics to express freely, to think freely, then they won't be able to tell the truth to the society, which society badly needs to understand itself. That they won't be able to do. I would cite only one example. Before the election of 2016, two leading psychoanalysts in American universities, if I remember correctly, one of them was from Harvard. They issued a joint statement about Donald Trump, and they said that our discipline, the training of our training as psychoanalysts forbids us from making any statement about a person we have not examined physically, personally. Okay. But stakes are so high that we as psychoanalysts are warning the nation that Trump is going to be a mortal threat to America and they must not choose him. So they were doing it as psychoanalysts. This is their duty to society, to tell the society where it is heading, how are things developing, what is the situation like. And if they are stopped from doing that, then it is the society which suffers, not the person. He, of course, he or she, but the society which suffers. And this is where I would like, we should put this whole thing in proper perspective and context, and not make it an individual issue. Of course, it is individual, but it's a larger thing.
No, of course. And I totally agree with what you're saying. But Professor Purvanand, is this not tantamount to a total censorship on the university campuses? And I'm just worried what happens to the teachers, what happens to the students on the campuses, and how difficult is it really for people like you to survive on university campuses now, where you have an environment like this, which believes in censorship, which doesn't believe in the freedom of thought?
You will have to look up, and I will suggest and I will request all the viewers to visit our website, which is India Academic Freedom Network website, IAFN website, and you can put it in the graphics because what we do daily, we collect such instances of attack on teachers, students, instances of violation of academic freedom, of attempts to stifle academic freedom. This is what we do, and scores of incidents we we then collect and put up on our website. So if you visit our website, you will get a sense of what is happening in India. A principal being punished, arrested, thrown out of service for a book in his library which he has not purchased, and some nationalists don't find that book palatable. A university teacher suspended for organizing a seminar. University teacher suffering a ban on her because she framed two questions which were not liked by nationalists. Okay, you will find scores of incidents like this, and what it has done, it has led to spread of a culture of self-censorship in classrooms and on the campuses, which again is going to hurt the students, because then teachers are not free to tell them what they should, and students won't be able to know what they should know. So it is, in fact, not the right of the teacher which is being affected, it's the right of the student to know, a right to access all the sources of information and knowledge. That is being attacked, and that is a very serious thing. It would lead to a very long-term damage from which society will take a very, very long time to recover, as China realized, as Soviet Union realized, as other countries realized. So, yes.
It's unfortunate, and it is disturbing, because we are not only professionals, but we are parents to children who are growing up. It does disturb me, at least, quite a bit. But towards the end, Professor Purvanand, with this particular episode and several instances you've pointed out, what would you really say towards the end? What is the need of the hour? Is it a panic situation on the university campuses? It's an alarming situation to which, if we don't listen to, if we don't heed to right now, then we are done forever. And at least we need to make the students, make the parents, make the society understand that we need to save this moment.
Yeah, I think the whole of the society needs to rise and resist the regime, and but we see no support. In fact, teaching community is quite alone. And what is again very unfortunate is that teaching community is not one, because we are not committed to our profession. Teaching community is divided among party lines, and there is a huge number of teachers who are affiliated to the ruling party, and they don't see anything wrong in what is happening on the campus. In fact, they are contributing to it. They behave like cadre. And that's why the situation on the campuses is very, very precarious, because our identity is not the identity of a teacher, but we are either BJP supporters or The teachers who want to exercise independence are called urban Naxals. So a situation in Indian universities is very, very precarious and very, very dangerous, and we need to talk about it uh, more seriously. And yeah, this is what I would like to say, that
Oh,
media
absolutely. And
needs.
yeah, I mean, I totally empathize with what you're saying, and I totally commensurate myself with your thoughts, because the similar scene we see in the media as well. There is a media which doesn't question. There is a media which is questioning all the time, and then they are labeled as Khan Market Gang or whatever, whatever. But indeed it's very, very disturbing. But wish you all the best, Professor Apoorvanand. But we need more professors like you who can awaken the society. And I would really want to listen to you always on every issue. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.